empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to the Morning Scoop. It is Friday, August 5th. We are in day 2 of training camp, which is fantastic and exciting. We have football to talk about. There's no more spring or summer workouts. There's no more spring workouts. There's no winter workouts. There's no spring ball. We have real football. The Hall of Fame game concluded last night. It is an exciting time for everything we are doing. We are jazzed. We are pumped. The message board is on fire. We have some great inside information on what happened in the first day of practice. That being said, as always, we are thankful for you guys. We're very grateful for everything you guys do for us. We have an outstanding lineup of camp coverage coming up. We're so excited about it. Big scrimmages on the Saturdays. I know people always look forward to the scrimmage nuggets. But yeah, if you guys want to know what's going on inside the Woody Hayes, we are the spot. We have got 2 new insiders that are just absolutely crushing it. And it's been a blast to have these guys on because they really know their stuff. They've got different sources. It's a really fun thing when we all get on the conference call and talk about what we've heard. With that being said, we're going to bring our lead insider, Mr. Nevadabuck. How are you today?
Doing great, Kirk. This is a great day. Some exciting things happening around Ohio State football. Ryan Day saying some stuff, and just seeing the guys back out there in the field, and just knowing that we're going to have football for the next 6 months warms the cockles of my heart. So I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, and something that's changed since when I practiced, and even when I was coaching in 2012, is that the first day of practice, these guys are allowed to have what they call shells on. They're these little pillow pads. They're real thin. They're not made of plastic like a traditional shoulder pad is. They're out there running around in the shells today. The linemen had knee braces on, so there's a little bit more contact. Not total physical contact, but they're fitting up. They're running plays versus the defense, which is something we didn't always do in the past. I think it's going to be real interesting to see how the offensive line gels and how the defensive line rotation shakes out. The first guys up on the D line, of course, are the seniors, Zach Harrison and Teron Vincent, Jerron Cage, and Tyler Friday. Something that me and you have been tracking and hopefully anticipating is seeing how that rotation shakes out as camp progresses. If Larry Johnson, if these young guys, Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau, can outproduce the older guys, if that potentially would have them take the starting defensive end spots. Nevada, obviously, that's a huge battle that's going to go on throughout camp and into the season, and there will be a deep rotation there, but what are you hearing, and what are you projecting out of the D line unit? Through the first week of camp into the Notre Dame game.
Well, I think the challenge for the defensive line is I think the best players in the defensive line are the younger guys. You've got Sawyer and JT and Michael Hall and Tyler Williams, and those guys. I think those are the 4 best, and I think that ultimately those are the guys that are going to be seeing the field. I think what's going to be really interesting to see is Knowles has been notorious for mixing in some 3-man front. And will they be showing that against Notre Dame? Will they just be going 4-man if they're Notre Dame's trying to line it up and run it at them? But I think their best players are the young guys. I think out of respect for the older guys, today they ran them out as the first unit. But I think it's going to be the younger guys that are carrying the water. I'm really high in Michael Hall. Obviously Sawyer, you can't get much higher rated than him and JT. The number 1 player in the country, and Tyleek is just a super freak. And I think those are going to be the guys that we're going to be hearing the most from. I think those guys are poised. They've had a great summer of conditioning, and I think that if you ask the people around the Woody Hayes, those are the guys that they think are going to be the difference makers that are going to take this defense from being just passable or pedestrian last year to being elite this year, and that's what everybody expects, and that's what I expect to see as well.
Yeah, I think that we need more slipperiness in the pass rush. That's something that lacked last year. We're very stagnant, very easy to block. Partially technique, partially who was performing with technique. I think that we need to get back to being able to affect the quarterback, which is something we were not good at all last year. Some of the games like Purdue where they had to throw it, 60 times. I don't even know if we had a single pressure in that game, which is almost astounding. I think Jim Knowles' scheme, which the guys are really excited about, and I think that our potential upgrade in the overall talent at defensive end is going to help us with our pass rush. Moving to linebackers, no surprise, they were running 3 linebackers today. You have the usual suspects. You have Tommy Eichenberg. You have Steele Chambers as the Mike and Will. At Sam, you have Tarajda Mitchell, a kid that was a captain last year, a kid that is productive. You have to pay attention to the three linebacker looks because we opened Notre Dame. And as I've said multiple times, anybody that watched our last two games should try to run the ball down our throats to prove that we can stop the run at all, given how porous we were last year. What do you anticipate getting out of this linebacker group? Something I also noted is Cody Simon playing Mike, which I feel like would be the top backup linebacker because I don't know how much Sam we're going to see when we see a traditional offense as opposed to a run heavy offense. What do you anticipate out of this linebacker group? Who are you excited to watch? I know you mentioned some of the young guys, but what are your projections for this room as we go forward in fall camp?
Well, it's interesting because I've been hearing a lot of good things about Mitchell, and I've been kind of skeptical hippo on whether or not he can play at this level. And frankly, when he's been out there, to my eye, he's been a little bit underwhelming. But we had one of our top insiders come in today and say there were some things that were bothering him at home. There were some reasons why he was a little bit off kilter, and he looks like a different kid. He's got a different look in his eye, and Ohio State's really excited about him. And I know Ryan Day's talking big about him, but I know this is the time of year when Ryan Day likes to pump up some guys. You're going to hear a lot about Zach Harrison and Julian Fleming and Tarajda Mitchell, and I'm not sure whether those are legit praise or whether they're just trying to position with the guys. But when they ran out the first unit today, like you said, it was Mitchell, Steele, and Tommy. But when you've got a guy like Cody Simon in the second group, there was nobody that I was higher on than Cody Simon last year, and I think Cody Simon has got he's got all-American type ability, like ability to be like the next great linebacker at Ohio State. And then you've got Chip, the transfer from Arizona State, who I think could play on either side of the ball with equal ability. And then you've got some of the young guys. You got the C.J. Hicks, where they put Sonny Styles, Cade Stover, Reed Carrick. I mean, you've got guys all over the place in this linebacker room. But I think the big thing for me is watching Mitchell. Is Mitchell really taking that next step? Has the light gone on for him? Can he be that wrecking ball that everybody wanted him to be coming out of high school and that Ryan Day's talking about? Or is that just kind of coach speak and they're pumping a guy up here in the early fall to try to get him to try to raise his levels of game? That's the thing I'm going to be watching on the most. And as you said earlier, how often are we going to be playing three linebackers anyway? That's a big question because the way that Knowles likes to feature the safeties and bring those guys a lot of different looks. I'm not sure how many times we're going to have three on the field anyway. So it's that's going to be interesting about that linebacker battle, and it's going to be something I'm going to be watching all throughout the fall camp.
Yeah, and the linebacker room has been kind of a turnstile over the last. Cade Stover got his turnover there. He's back to offense. Sonny Styles is back at safety. Everyone projects him to move up just because he's 6'4", 220. That's a gigantic safety. If he gains 15 pounds, he's almost going to have to play linebacker. But I think it's going to be fascinating to see who shakes out as the main two linebackers. I mean, obviously, everybody projects Tommy Eichenberg. They project Steele Chambers based on their play last year. Jim Knowles loves Tommy. Loves what he brings to the table. But I think that it'll be interesting to see what kind of niche Tarajda pulls because, when you're named a captain as a junior, it's very difficult on you if you potentially don't play up to what your standard or what your expected standard is to be as a captain. So, with Tarajda, he was actually a captain last year and he got benched and he didn't play much down the stretch. And it's one of those things where it really puts the coaching staff in a tough spot when they pick the captains for his senior year because, he's a guy that they had high hopes for. He started off the season as a starter. His playing time became less and less and less as the season went on. To the point where he barely played down the stretch. And, do you make him a captain again? Or is he a rare guy that's a captain as a junior, not a captain as a senior? So that'll be interesting. I mean, he's a great kid, rooting for him. There's few weaker spots on the team than linebacker and defensive tackle. So if there's ever a spot you can go and win a spot, it's there. But I'm excited about it. We're going to flip over to the offense. The offensive line is it's somewhat maligned. It's something that, people always are worried about depth and what are the tackles going to look like in 5 years from now and, things like that are silly. But when you're an offensive line coach, as I have been, you don't worry about that stuff. You just worry about getting to the first game and having 5 guys that are game ready and ready to play. Nevada, give me your thoughts on the offensive line. What do you think you want to see out of this group into camp and into the Notre Dame game?
Well, I think the starting five is obviously set. You've got Johnson and Jones and Whippler and Jackson and DeJuan Jones, and it's a great starting five. So I think everybody's concerned a little bit about the depth, who are going to be the next guys up, and the battle that the swing tackle position, the guy, the next tackle up, and you've got a really interesting battle going on there with Josh Fryer and Zen Mikulski, who are both battling for that, both really good players. And then interestingly, who's the question about the next man up on the inside? And that's again Josh Fryer and Enoch Vamahi. I think Josh has just proven himself to be such a versatile performer and a guy that we really missed in the spring. He's out with a minor injury, but I think he's going to be the next big thing at Ohio State on the offensive line. Can play tackle, can play guard, can go really anywhere on the offensive line that you really need him to go. And I think Ohio State's developing some nice depth. I think Justin Price is doing a really nice job, with the guys in terms of instilling some toughness. But we're only going to go as far as that starting five goes. But in case somebody went down, I think we've got more than capable backups, to 7 or 8 deep, and I think that's a national championship or certainly championship contender type of depth that you need on the offensive line.
Yeah, and I think on the offensive line, it's going to be really interesting to see how the chemistry comes together between the new guys on the left, new guys on the right. Like when there's a new left tackle, left guard playing together, a new right guard, right tackle playing together, there has to be chemistry that develops, especially in pass protection, switching off games, communication in the run game. When you do combination fits, you got to really know kind of how your guard sets the guy up, especially when it's a defensive tackle, because I played with a bunch of different guards when I was playing, and they're all a little bit different, and you got to kind of get used to what their style is, how much force they have on the defender. Some guys are really good at setting up a double team. Some guys aren't as good at it, so you got to kind of know what you're working with. Some guys are really good at passing off twists. Some guys aren't. So it'll be fascinating to watch that. Luke Whippler obviously is a rock. He's the leader of that group right now. Looks fantastic. I'm really excited to see what he can do, because at this time last year, he was a guy nobody even thought was going to play. And obviously Harry Miller, he had his personal stuff, and he was out for the season. And Luke stepped right in, and he played really well for a redshirt freshman that most thought would be playing in the fourth quarter of blowouts. He ended up starting the first game, and he never really looked back. So I'm excited about that. Coming down. It's the first day of camp. Everyone's excited. It's always easy to go the first day. Day 2's tomorrow, and these days start to go longer and longer and longer, and they stack up. Nevada, what do you want to hear? I know you'll be checking in with your people every day during camp. What are you hoping to hear as camp progresses about this team?
Well, I'm hoping to hear that we have a coherent defensive strategy and that we're making solid improvements and that we're able to slow down or stop this prolific Ohio State offense. You've got some. I'm rooting for some guys. I'm rooting for the Julian Fleming stuff. We talked about it a little bit earlier in the show, but Ryan Day went out of his way to talk about Julian and what a great spring and summer he had. Now they're expecting great things out of him. I hope that's true. I hope for him. I hope that he can come and step it up and really do things we need to, because that's a deep wide receiver room. And you kind of feel like this is his moment. Like if he doesn't do it now, then it's not ever going to happen for him here at Ohio State. And really rooting for the kid. Great kid. Great player in high school. Would love to see him be a great player in college. So it's going to just be interesting to see which names kind of come up. And does this whole commitment that Ohio State made to toughness. And again, everybody talks about toughness, and every year, everybody's talking about how soft it was, but this year Ohio State players wanted it harder in the spring and summer. They wanted it to be pushed harder, from the strength and conditioning standpoint. And I think Ryan Day really looked to Coach Mick to try to take it up a notch. And, is Ohio State a tougher team? Because they're going to get tested right off the bat with a very good Notre Dame team that is going to line up and run the ball at them. And can we stop it? Can we stop the run? Are there significant changes being made on that side of the ball? Because we know we can score, and you don't worry about C.J. Stroud. You don't worry about Jackson Smith and Jigba or, this incredible stable of running backs that we have. But can we stop anybody? And I think that's an open question. And until Knowles proves that he can do it with Ohio State in the horseshoe, it's going to be a question in my mind. But we're going to get little glimpses about it all all fall camp, and that's what I'm going to be keeping my ear to the ground to be listening for sure.
Yeah, something I really think will help is just the amount of experience that's back on defense. You know, sometimes people say, well, it's the same guys back that weren't real good last year, but I just know from experience when you're a first year starter and you're kind of treading water, trying to figure out what you're doing, it is much more difficult than when you're a second year starter. You've got a year of starting under your belt. You kind of have your routine. You kind of know what to expect in a game week and in games, and you have an extra year of conditioning under your belt. You should be stronger and faster if you put in the work. You know, as your body is maturing through college. I think that these guys being more veteran, I think is going to be something that's really going to help. I think that they're excited for the scheme. So I know the pass rushers are much more excited about the scheme. I think that their ability to do some of the things they like to do in terms of variety of pass rush moves is going to be a welcome change for these guys. And I think that there's a new passion there when you have a guy that really believes in what he's doing. He doesn't get out schemed. He's a great adjuster in game, which is huge. Something that we really rapport at last year defensively. I think it gives the guys confidence. You know, when a coordinator has kind of a cockiness to him, the way Jim Knowles does, and he's a guy that these guys are ready to run through a wall for. From the guys I know and talk to, it's gonna be really interesting to see if all of the talk comes to fruition against Notre Dame, and I think it will, just because these guys have conviction about this guy, about Jim Knowles, and I'm excited to see how hard they're going to play for him. He's a big effort guy, which I love. Something that I was very critical of last year is that it sounded like we played hard. I don't think we played with effort and attitude. I think that we got ran over. I think that we didn't have any leadership on defense, and I think when you play Purdue and Michigan State and teams that you're just physically much better than, that doesn't matter. But when you run into teams with equal talent, you can get it gets bad, and the panic sets in. That's when you need leadership to be in the room, and I don't think we had that. So that'll be fascinating. Anything else, Nevada? We got about a month out from kickoff from Notre Dame. What can people expect on Buckeye Scoop? We've got some great new additions to the staff. Talk a little bit about why people should sign up for Buckeye Scoop.
Well, right now the board's never been more active than it is right now, and we've got so many interesting threads going on. We've got some great threads going on expansion. For you expansion junkies, I think there's some huge news coming on in expansion here in the next 8 weeks. So we're not talking about years. We're not even talking about half a year or multiple months. We're talking about in the next couple of months. I think there's going to be some huge developments in expansion. And we've got that covered from the inside out. We've got all the comings and goings at the Woody Hayes, and it's just a great time to be on the message board. We've got a super positive message board where we've got a lot of smart people, having some great takes and exchanging ideas and doing things. And you don't find a lot of the toxicity that you find elsewhere in kind of the internet in general and message boards in particular. It's just a great place to hang out and talk about Ohio State football. So if you're a junkie, join up. I know you'll enjoy it, because I know I sure do.
Yeah, it's a fun place to be. Yeah, we want it to be a high level experience. We really pride ourselves on making sure that that it's a really fun place to be. It's inclusive. It's somewhere that people want to be. They feel safe asking questions. Like I said, we have zero tolerance for a lot of the stuff that goes on a lot of boards. So it makes it really fun because people just like being on it. It's friendly people, really great people, some really high end people. And like I said, I love being on it, and it's a blast. So with that being said, day 2 of camp is tomorrow. I'm going to wrap this thing up. I'm just telling you guys, like, the scoop has never been hotter than it is right now. We have an outstanding group of people on here. Our staff is incredible. Joe Drame is a rising superstar in the industry. 2 new insiders that are really, really wired up in the whack. And we have some great expansion stuff coming. So never been a better time to be on BuckeyeScoop.com. If you would, please like this video. If you enjoyed this video, leave me a comment. Which player do you want to see win a starting spot during the 2022 Ohio State football training camp? Is it Jack Sawyer? Is it someone else? Is it Cade Stover? Give me your names. I want to hear the names you guys are projecting to have big years for Ohio State. Leave that in the comments on YouTube. On our podcast formats, please leave us a 5-star review. It helps people promote. It helps people find the show. It promotes our show. All of that stuff adds up. We appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. We appreciate you. We will see you on the boards. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bucks.